Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. This is our Twitch recap from last Sunday's live stream, where we started out with our cupola module for Harmonia Station. So this is actually on its way to Mars. We had a mid-course correction to work our way through so that we could actually encounter Mars SOI, and with signal delay and everything, we would go ahead and toggle up our staging event and our ignition. So after burning the 100 or so meters per second left on the B upper stage, we will jettison it and then switch over to our experimental engine and round out the rest of our burn to make an encounter out of this. We would actually swing down and correct. You see, that's yeah, it's an encounter. It's not a very good one, so we're gonna plot this node for just as soon as we can. KSP was having some trouble actually letting me plot the node, which is very typical KSP. So we'll put ourselves on a nice intercept, no atmosphere capture for this craft. It will be all propulsive, but the inclination looks pretty good. So we'll set the alarm and then go ahead and execute the rest of this. Moving swiftly along, we are coming out to our Venus LoveTruck mission with the Mini-Hoff upper stage. As it is about to make its entrance into Venus SOI, and of course needs a rather large correction. We are hoping to come in somewhat polar for this one, in hopes that we could put the payload, which is of course a truck of love, onto the near a pole biome of Venus, because we've never actually put anything down on the surface there. So it'd give us a unique opportunity to get some quality science. There was some debate between myself and my conscience on what kind of altitude to go ahead and go for a direct descent kind of profile. So after jettisoning the Mini-Hoff upper stage and making sure that it would pile into the surface of Venus, we are left with just our payload stage, which does have its own engines. Unfortunately, the tanks have either not pressurized or lost pressurization, but those main engines will not fire, which limited our options for a last-minute braking burn. And of course, I left the tanks locked, so there's a quick F9 and F5 there to make the, I don't know, the engines recognize that there was fuel, but they lack pressurization. So it's not that it matters either way. Those engines are just not really going to fire. Good opportunity for a screenshot there, though. But since this is the first thing that we've had come across some of the Venus's polar biomes, we queued up a bunch of science and tried to radio in as much as we could. What with the signal delay and them not being attached to an action group, meant that we had to keep diving inside the cargo container here and trying to get that stuff kind of sorted out. So with our periapsis sit at about 62 kilometers, I thought that would be a good enough altitude to do a single pass deorbit and landing. Well, we'll radio the science in, and then I'll turn you over to old me live during the broadcast. Oh, hey, we're atmospheric. It's time to start paying attention. Woo, here comes the heats. Oh, come on. Really? Was I in time warp? I was not. That was too much. God, for the fourth failure of this mission, I am certainly on a freaking roll. Yeah, that was not the best. We will switch now over to our Chestnut V on its Echo upper stage from the BPR rocket as it is making its approach into Venus SOI. And this is quite a historic moment for me and the space program in general, as this is our first crew ever to make transition into Venus SOI. So here's old me. Yay! What's slow here? Food, water, and oxygen. Crew report. 20 science. Transmit that home. Our first crew has arrived at Venus. Yay! Historic day. Very, very, very historic day. Who's going to make the first EVA? I can't read their names. It's too small. Catherine Richards. Catherine Driftwood Richards will make the first EVA around Venus. EVA report. 160 science. That's awesome. So get back in. That was totally worthwhile. And let's review stored data here. We don't have any real science experiments on this thing. They're all on board the station. A very verbose crew report. But we're looking good. And since we have direct oh, you know what I need to do? Is reactivate these two engines. Because when it comes to propulsive capture, you might as well do it quickly. Alright, so let's set up our node. We can get rid of that one. We're just going to go ahead and make it at our descending node, because why not? So we will make sure that we have a solid approach onto Venus, and then get our capture bird set up, and take a relative gauge of our relative inclination with Ostrich Station, the station that has waited longer for a crew than any other station, possibly in the history of the program. And just to touch things up, we will transfer some liquid oxygen from our Echo upper stage into Chestnut proper, just to kind of balance things out a little bit. Yeah, lots of boil off that happens with this spacecraft. One of the downsides, and one of the reasons why I was hesitant to use kerosene and liquid oxygen as a deep space useful stage, is that boil off is always a concern. Although the Echo upper stage, of course, uses Hydrolux, and the boil off there is, well, it would be significant if KSP rendered boil off for inactive vessels, which it does not. So all we have to do is ignore things, and the fuel stays in place. So we are now making some of our terminal descent onto Venus. We will just poke around, see if our crew report or our EVA reports are any different depending on biome. They are not. So we're going to have to wait until we are in low space to take care of some of those. But I will turn you back over to old me. Yeah, it looks like we're going to have to save our EVA reports until after the burn. 7, 6, 5, 4, come out of time warp, get angled in. RCS to arm, now get angled in, please. Basewood, I'm still counting signing rockets for 2 science at a time. Oh man, the early game is just an entirely different beast, and they have changed so much. Between this archaic ass version of the game and modern RP-0, that it's kind of ridiculous. Where did my 2 liquid oxygen tanks go? Well, I guess we're just not filling them now. Come on, come on, come on. Ullage. No, I don't want to move my Delta V window, thank you. Stable. Ignition. Maneuver node, please. Good light on all 3 HG3s. In. Successful transfer of all of the RCS fuel from the Echo upper stage. Alright, audio corrected in my headphones. Space just above Venus's volcanic rise. Oh, that's an interesting biome. Oh, we have a failure. It's our center engine. Not a huge problem. The other 2 only have to run for another 35 seconds. Stage, RCS, main engine. It's just going to take a little while longer to walk through it, but it is interesting we had our first failure for this mission. God, please let it be the only failure this mission. Stage. Stage. Come on, KSP, don't do this to me. I should have quick saved 3 minutes ago. Stage. Ignition. Chestnut is free, off and running. That should be the Perseus radiators, but you know what? I think we will wait until we are done with this capture burn. Click save, famous last words. Fair and truthful. Don't quick save until the fairings are way the heck away. Fair and truthful. Oh, good. Good! That's good. That's good. That's... God damn it, KSP. God damn it, KSP. Ah, finally! Farewell! Ah, like the X you just can't get rid of. They just keep coming back. The fairings are doing the hamstrings. Were the fairings doing it too? I missed it. I was just paying attention to that echo upper stage. Oh, good. Houston, we found a wormhole. Oh, good. Well, hey, at least we're finally clear of them. They will be ejected off into the solar nothingness, and we can carry on with our mission. Just as soon as we've actually captured. Another 200 or so meters per second, and we should be in orbit. And there it is, captured. We'll go ahead and run through the last 170 so meters per second. I just like to see it here on the map view. And we'll just go ahead and shut them down early. What is our total endurance? 263 days. Yeah, this is Chestnut V. I just want to check Chestnut M. Make sure we're not going to overrun on that. Where's Chestnut? Oh yeah, Block 1, Chestnut M, 6 crew, 189 days, 239 days. Perfect. Everyone is within tolerance. Feels pretty good to put at least most of this mission in the W column, at least for the time being. They are obviously not out of the woods yet. A successful docking with Ostrich Station, where they have a multitude of life support supplies awaiting them. Should be at least 5 years. I think that's what we were budgeting this mission for, so if it's not, then we're going to have a lot more problems. Anyway, so now that we have a chance to gather some in-space low over Venus science, we will take that nice opportunity to get those EVA and crew reports radioed in before setting up our node to match our inclination with Ostrich Station, and then we'll just go ahead and plot another node. This initially was supposed to be a drop us into the very upper reaches of the atmosphere so that we could start doing aero braking passes, which was the part of this mission that I was the most uncomfortable with, because as you just saw with the LoveTruck, Venus's atmosphere is extraordinarily unforgiving. The upside here, however, is that because we really built this to go to Mars, and Venus is just a little bit easier, and we actually had a really good ejection, we have a whole lot of excess delta V in our main engines here, which are, of course, intended to be refueled on station. So I'm thinking that maybe we'll just go ahead and do a propulsive match to orbit. So in little time I had to actually record after the stream, or in the week following, that was exactly what we decided to go ahead and do. Was just use our available delta V and go ahead and make this a propulsive rendezvous with absolutely zero interaction with Venus's atmosphere, because that's like safer or something. So we do a quick check for science, make sure our planes are aligned, and then this is just kind of an initial node to drop our apoapsis much lower, so that we can phase in sync with Ostrich Station before making a rendezvous burn. So after just a few little logistical things, we'll go ahead and warp on in to where we need to be, basically, to make the bulk of this rendezvous burn. So a little bit of ullage from our RCS thrusters, and then a solid light on our main engine, and we'll go ahead and drop that apoapsis way down. I was really trying to preserve some ignitions, but based on what we learned around Mars, we really, if we have 3 ignitions when we depart, we should be in great shape. One to kick ourselves out of Venus SOI, one for a hypothetical correction maneuver to properly intercept Earth, and then one for last minute ditch braking if we need it. So, I mean, it can be done on just one ignition, but obviously I would prefer to have 3, and we're well on course for that. So after dropping ourselves down and making a few other small touch-up corrections to bring our separation at closest approach down to a reasonable number, we are finally on intercept for Ostrich Station, and there it is, closing in at a little more than 100 meters per second. One last fire of the main engine to bleed off the vast majority of that intercept speed, and then we just coast on in. It was a whole lot easier than really it should have been, although this is like an hour and a half of footage condensed down to only a few bare moments. So it did actually take some time, but now here we are on final approach, just trying to bring our docking port in line with the station. We are actually going to dock to the service port at the bottom of the station, as my fears that Chestnut's just a bit too big to not interfere with those solar panels and the 2 docking ports we have open. So now the wiggle dance will begin of just scraping all of the paint off of both of those docking ports before finally we have hard dock and lock, and we can go ahead and bring this station online and call it a functional facility. So one scientist will just walk through the airlock. Apparently that bottom container thing, our main crew quarters just below the command module. I forgot to update the connected living space setup for it to make it connected living space compatible. So for the time being, we'll just have to EVA some people across. But we're going to go ahead and transfer some science into the lab so that our Kerbals here can start doing good work as quickly as possible, because we're very close to actually finishing the tech tree. Not all of it is unlocked yet, and most of it is in the research queue, but I think we have 2 nodes left to unlock before we have actually completed the tech tree for this playthrough, which is one hell of a milestone. I don't think I've ever done that in a I've definitely never done that in a realism overhaul save before, so it's a first for me, certainly. So we'll run our science experiments as we can, collect the data that has already been queued in, and then call it an episode. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. I really do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.